waste. If that's all TCEQ is going to do, then forget the inspection. It isn't doing us as citizens any good just to come out and fill out a bunch of paperwork and say, okay, that's done. So one of the comment, and I wasn't going to talk about it, but then I thought maybe I should, regarding notification of cities, agencies, and residents near landfills. I know there's a rules change made last year that extended the notification distance from 500 feet to a quarter mile. Well, I'm on a mailing list, so I get notification of things having to do with the permits from the two agencies. Well, I got I'll make it quick. I got a letter in the mail a few weeks ago talking about a public notice for regarding excess levels of toxic chemicals in ground monitoring wells at Camelot landfill. And there were trichloroethylene, dichloroethylene, and arsenic. And these groundwater monitoring wells are actually within 500 feet of the Elm Fork of the Trinity River that runs between the two landfills. And let me just make this point, I'm sorry, that we notified the Trinity River Authority and the Dallas Water Utilities, which gets the water and from the Elm Fork and Trinity River, and which is the drinking water for a lot of communities, including Dallas, Carrollton, Coppell, and they were not aware of this. And it turns out in further investigation, these high levels of chemicals in the groundwater wells went back to 2003. And yet it was never reported, there was never a violation. And it's just kind of crazy that the way the reporting is that, you know, if you own land within now a quarter mile of the landfills, you're notified. But the river that runs between the two landfills, there's no notification of the agency that regulates that or the Dallas authorities.
Hopefully,
Let me respond to the very first part when you were talking about the inefficiencies. And I would be somewhat defensive here of the agency because I know the regional staff fairly well, especially here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I will tell you that almost as a person, they would love to be able to respond to complaints in a very quick fashion so that they can find out whether there's a violation of where it's coming from and do the type of inspections you talked about. They simply have not been allocated those staff resources to do that. There are 3,000 employees in the TCEQ. 2,000 of them are in the Austin headquarters. 1,000 of them are spread around the entire state of Texas to do the type of inspections that you're talking about. It should be the other way around. There should be less people in the Austin headquarters and more people out in the region. And the regional staff that's coming to the person, they would love to be able to come out the moment they get a complaint from you. And to do that type of inspection, they simply don't have the manpower to do it. If you look at the Dallas-Fort Worth area, not only with size, but with Barnett Shale going on and everything else, and I forget now how many employees are in the Dallas-Fort Worth regional office, and all the counties they have to cover, it's a wonder they do as well as they can. The point I want to make, and especially to Senator Corona and to Lon here, is the agency needs to refocus how it allocates its resources. And that can be done through the appropriations process, or it can be done through some very good urging from the legislature. But you're going to solve the problems that all of you are talking about by having the resources closest to those problems and not setting in 5 buildings on I-35 in Austin.
any other comments about the landfill issue?
Well, it's the only one that we've talked about tonight. I used to love landfill problems. I love them because most of them occur in suburban growth area districts. And so my colleagues that come to me to complain about the agency don't even want to complain about the agency and lack enforcement when it comes to air pollution, but their constituents are raising Cain about landfill issues. More seriously, it's a lot like my experience 6 or 7 years ago when the problems that people in western rural Tarrant County were having with their water and Barnett Shale exploration. It wasn't my problem. My constituents all drink from the city of Fort Worth water system, but it's all of our problems and it's symptomatic of the inadequacy of the agency. Larry's given a good analysis of some of the problems, but frankly, the agency is just fundamentally flawed and it needs to be reworked. How much of it we can rework in the legislative process, we've already debated that question, but I appreciate you bringing up the nuances of it and we need to visit more on it.
George? Followed by Lynn.
While I'm approaching the microphone here, I'd like to present to the council, since particularly Mr. Berman, since he brought up the issue about the Gasland, the documentary. For your information, and I'll give this to every one of you gentlemen, along with some other information in regards to Texas TQEC and the Railroad Commission. I appreciate it if you wouldn't read the thing in its entirety while I'm making my comments, but if you choose to ignore me, that's your prerogative. Gentlemen, I'm probably the only person here. Let me just review with you how a well is drilled, so you will know for your own edification. First of all, the certification is set through the freshwater sands mandated by the Texas Railroad Commission, and it's also had it cemented to the surface by the use of a letter from the Water Board. That's another agency. But you have to have that water board before you can drill the well, before you can set the surface pipe. Now, in that regards there, the Railroad Commission is notified in advance that the well will be cemented, and they have an opportunity to have a representative there to oversee that the job is done properly. All right? You'll have to bear with me. I have a little balance problem here, and they don't provide anything to hold on to, so you'll have to bear with me in that regard. Okay, coming out of the bottom of the surface casing, the well is drilled at total depth and it's mandated by various municipalities to use a closed loop mud system. That's in the law, that particular city.
Can you provide a chair? Would you like to sit down and make your remarks?
I think my comment, all right.
All right.
Well, won't take a few more minutes here. Once TD agrees, casing running the well bore and cement is pumped down the casing and designed to rise 1,000 to 1,500 foot above the pay zone. After the well is cased, the rig is removed, a completion unit is rigged up. The well is then perforated, fracked with fresh water, sand, and small amounts of various chemicals blended in the drinking fluid to carry high volumes of sand into formation and to control the bacteria present in the water. After the well is fracked, the well flow back, the process begins. Nowadays they use what we call green completion there, where that is to say that the gas is produced and separated as it flows back by a separator. The gas line's already in place there, so that gas goes down the sales line. The produced water goes into the tanks there, on the side, and then in turn is hauled to a saltwater disposal well. Once the well is stabilized, production equipment is installed. Arlington is forced to be in a dry gas zone. When we say dry gas zone, what we mean by that is that's low BTUs with little or no hydrocarbons. Vapor recovery systems are installed if and only hydrocarbons are present. The 620 says to justify a VRS, which is a vapor recovery system. Would you not agree that there's no justification to put in such a system if there is no hydrocarbons present? Think about it. One last comment from a veteran with oil and gas profession is the fear of contamination from everybody of water wells. Every saltwater disposal well has a packer set in the well bore above the injection zone. The Railroad Commission mandates annual testing of the casing above the packer and submission of a signed statement and a static pressure test chart until the well is plugged. You also notify the Railroad Commission that this test can be done, and they usually have a representative there to see it is done in accordance. 5, safety first is the primary goal of every person and company engaged in the mighty endeavor to make America independent of foreign and hostile oil and gas companies. We should all be thankful to our God for this beautiful and wonderful wealth He has bestowed upon this, the Barnett Shale, and other producing areas here within the great state of Texas. That's the end of my comments. If you ask a question, I'd be more than glad to answer, since I do have a little bit of knowledge of the oil field.
I appreciate your testimony. I have yet to read the details of each of these pages that you provided, but I take in particular reference to the letter or the briefing from state of Colorado. I read over that. That's interesting as well. It provides interesting and some balance to the perspective.
I agree with that, and I think that's why we're not going to present that until Mr. Berman made a comment that he did. Also, you'll note in those other letters there about action that the TQEC has taken against people that do break the law. Not only the oil and gas companies, but other entities there, and it's all mentioned in that letter that's taken from them. The third thing is talking about the pollution of the air. The TCEQ had just installed its 5th monitor system here, and that was put in the Decatur area, because that's where most of the hydrocarbons are located. Again, that's the 5th installation they put in here. So folks, they're doing their job. Can they do it better? Well, certainly they can. We can all do better. So I have no complaint with that. I think we're doing an adequate job. We can always do better.
Representative Byrne, did you have something you want to add? No, Mr. Stern, okay. The next speaker, thank you, Debbie. Wendy Hammond is our next speaker. To approach this microphone, she should be followed by Dan Clay.
Hello, my name is Wendy Hammond. I'm an attorney that has represented citizens and nonprofit groups throughout the state of Texas on air, water, and waste issues. I want to address at least 3 issues pretty quickly. There are a lot more issues that I've talked in depth with Burnham and Sauer, and I'm looking forward to talking with Senator Farmer more. I want to deal with the Commissioners Board, see if it just dots the i's, cross the t's. And granted, I want to give you an example of a problem we had. In the El Paso region, there was an applicant that wanted to have a grease trap. Basically, he had a little land, he wanted to dig some trenches, and have restaurants be able to deposit their grease all in that trap. It is an extremely smelly, messy, and it attracts vectors. Luckily, local citizens were paying attention. As you know, public notice is just published in the paper by the department. Someone was paying attention and wanted to participate. They were able to afford an attorney, which most people aren't. And in that scenario, we realized this application wasn't complete. There was no way an ALJ would have ever recommended for it to go forward. Yet the public was subjected to the cost and resources spending for a contested case proceeding because the executive director recommended its approval. While we were in the hearing process, it was coming out, and it was so apparent that this applicant did not know what he was doing. The executive director, staff attorney turned to me and goes, I just feel so sorry for him because the process is so complicated and you can't get a permit unless you hire a whole bunch of experts and an attorney to work through this. And I looked at her and I said, no, the public shouldn't be subjected to the pollution if they can't even handle the application process. So there is